Hey logo designers, this is Michael from Logo Package, and this is another devlog for the upcoming Logo Package product called Logo Package Forge. Logo Package Forge is a new extension for Adobe Illustrator that allows you to both organize fonts natively in Adobe Illustrator, as well as to quickly generate many concepts for logo designs. In the last devlog, I talked about the font management features. There is an all fonts list. You can favorite these fonts. You can hide fonts from your list, and you can create sets of related fonts. So here I have an old school set, and it contains all of my fonts that I might use for designs where I need an old school look. I have this new school set, which is basically just a bunch of sans serif fonts. And then I have a script set as well, where I was saving some of my favorite script fonts. You can ignore Avenir next there. But this is the font organization nature of the extension. But the real power of this extension is to be able to generate logo variations using these sets. So I want to see a new project that I'm working on in these 7 typefaces or 20 typefaces or whatever it is that you have organized into your set. And you can quickly generate a lot of different variations and see how things are going to look. So today's update is all about the UI because all we had access to in the first devlog was these sort of font features. But now basically the rest of the UI has been completed. So I'm just going to give you a little tour of that, even though we don't have the functionality built yet. So if we go to the Logotype tab, then we can see we have some settings for generating these variations. You can choose an alignment for your type, you can choose leading, and you can input tracking. Tracking is the space between letters across an entire line of text, whereas kerning is just the spacing in between 2 individual letters. And then you have lines of type. So we can see here that if I type in Oliver Chang as my text, then we get this nice live update which shows what our text is going to look like in all of these fonts. In particular, if I'm looking at this in the old school set, I'm getting a subset of fonts that I'm interested in seeing. The words that I've typed in, particularly a logo, I get to see a preview of what that looks like. Now I can also add additional lines of type. So let's say that this was a premium handbag company. So I can add another type line and type in premium handbags. And now we have access to some more settings. Previously, there was no justified option. But if I have more than one line and I want each one of those lines of text to be the same width, then I'll be able to select the justified alignment, and that will make every individual line of text be the same width. Now, something I know that lots of people will be excited about because they've requested it very often is the ability to pair fonts or mix and match fonts within the same logo. So the way that we're going to be able to do that using Logo Package Forge is to select a target line of type. So in this case, I'm going to choose Oliver Chang as my target font. Now, when I've done that, a few more settings have shown up. This is going to tell us whether we want to stack these lines of type vertically or horizontally. And it also allows us to pick a typeface for the target line. So this would mean that Oliver Chang is going to be the same font, and then we're going to see a bunch of different variations for the premium handbags, which we can think of as a tagline. We could also do the opposite, where we have premium handbags set to a specific font. Maybe you have a nice sans serif font that you know you want to have the tagline in, but you're still interested in seeing a bunch of different variations for Oliver Chang. So you can use these settings here to express the alignment and which font you want to keep the same, and then show variations of that font paired with a bunch of other fonts. Now, because the functionality is not built out here, it's easier for me to show you in the prototype designs how that would work. So I'll come over to Figma here and show you. So in this case here, let's say that we wanted to have the first line, you can change the color. So the first line needs to be red. This is the target font. We're going to keep it in a Brill fat face, and we're going to compare it with all of the fonts in the text set. So that means that Chancellor is going to be set in all of the fonts for tech. Now, if we look at this example, there's only 2 fonts in the text set. So we also have the justified setting that I mentioned. So each line of type will be the same width. And we've changed the color for Chancellor. So our generation that results from this, if we were to click Make Logos, is going to show Oliver in Brill fat face, and then Chancellor in the 2 different fonts from the tech set. And this will allow you to make variations where you can compare fonts. Now, this is a vertical alignment where the type is stacked one line on top of the other. But you may also want to do this where you're making a single line of text and you want to compare fonts that are going to be in the same line. So in that case, you would do horizontal. And again, we have this Arial bold being compared with the Brill fat face, which is our target font and our target line. And then here it is compared with interregular. Now this would expand out to be as many variations as you had numbers of fonts in the text set, since we've selected the set here. Now again, this update is just about the UI. We don't have the functionality built yet. This is the progress that we have made in building out the UI for the Logotype settings. Now additionally, in this sort of mock-up I have to the left here, you can see that there are a bunch of different marks as well on top of these fonts. And so I'd like to show you the UI for the logo mark section. So the logo mark section is a little bit more simple than the logo type section. And again, we are just deciding, do we want to have the mark on top of the type or below the type? Do we want to have it to the left and right? So if we choose vertical in the dropdown, then you see we have this sort of little graphic here that shows where the type would be and then where you want the mark to be relative to that type. So this setting is I want the mark centered above the type. This setting would be, I want the mark right aligned to the type and below it. And if we switch to horizontal, then you see again, you get to pick that anchor point. Do I want it to the left, centered to the type? Do I want it to the right of the type and aligned to the top? And then you would just set whatever artwork you want to use as your logo mark. And there are spacing and scale settings as well to adjust how big the mark is or how far away or close to the type the logo mark is. So let me show you sort of how that plays out, because again, this is just a UI. We don't have the functionality built yet. So I'll go back to Figma and we can go look at the logo mark page here. And we can just see a bunch of different settings. So in this case, the spacing is very close to the type and it is centered to the type on the left side. And it's as big as it's as big as the mark can be. So this is that example. It's a big mark and it's very close to the type centered. Over here, we have a big mark that is very far away from the type and it is also centered above the type. The biggest you can make a mark, I mean, everything is subject to change, but how I've designed it so far is the biggest that you can make a mark is to be the same width as the type. And this, of course, is going to be another tool for designers to use to make sort of a justified design. But we can kind of see the different settings and different variations applied here and how they may play out in the generations. So maybe, something like this is more optimal. And with this case, the mark is only spaced a little bit far away from the type and it's only scaled up just a little bit. So that is how the logo mark settings will work. And this is the progress we have made on the UI for the logo mark. I think the next few updates will start to show some of the actual generation of logos, the actual functionality of the extension. But I just wanted to keep you updated on the progress we've made. So thank you very much for watching.